Chat, who's the best RuneScape player all around? PvP, PvE, PvM, they would score the highest.
People always say like, what's like the most, what is the best achievement ever done by a RuneScape player?
Guys, what is it? I always think of 54 Awakened Leviathan, or 54 Awakened Leviathans, Port Hazard. I always think that that's the craziest thing anyone's ever done. No, it's not Sardaco SOTE. That's not the craziest thing ever done. Okay, guys? Wook's No Prayer Jad, solo hard mode Tob, Grandmaster Hardcores. Grandmaster Hardcores is very, very impressive. There's only 5 of them. There's literally only 5 of them ever. But 54 Awakened Leviathans, 1 inventory. A Rindy level 3 Jad. These are things that might not ever be done again. These are things that people might not ever be able to do. I don't think anyone, and for Rindy's case, not that someone couldn't do it skill-wise, but I don't think anybody can even get an account. I think Rindy's account is grandfathered in. He's the only one that could complete Priest in Peril on a level 3. So I don't know if anyone else can do that anymore. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. Okay, let's see what Bodhi thinks.
It's like, what would you say, like in old school RuneScape, what's the best, hardest thing ever achieved by a player? I'm asking you next, so
okay.
Think about it.
Honestly, I think I'm just going to have to go for the, like, I can't say anything other than no overhead Inferno.
No overhead Inferno?
Yeah.
Any achievement. I probably go like super top.
Is that Port Hazard as well? No overhead Inferno. I feel like most of the hardest things ever done in the game are Port Hazard challenges. I feel like he has the majority of things in the game that people would consider the hardest thing ever done. It's crazy.
Tier PvP. When you see someone like Oda or 1013 PvPing, like this I think.
If you were to like break that down into like an achievement though, so like obviously someone completes a no overhead Inferno. Like if you had a goal,
Yeah,
like what
sure.
would the goal be in PvP in that case? Would it be like to beat Oda Block or 1030 in a tribrid fight?
Possibly, yeah. I guess I was looking at more less about the achievement and more about like
The skill set.
the skill set and also how adaptable you have to be, and also you have to lead a lot. I've watched a lot of Oda decision videos where he's talking about how he spends a lot of time trying to lead the other person into doing things. Whereas with things like Inferno, I will never be able, like these players are way better than I will ever be, obviously, but it's still scripted to an extent. Whereas PvP, you're at the whim of whatever the other person tries to do. And it's like there are other elements of RNG involved as well.
Well, I guess PvM's solvable, PvP isn't, because it relies on people, and people act differently depending on what happens in a situation, right? So yeah, two very different skill sets.
I'm still awestruck over like noob types, Leviathan run and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Like just because I think he takes like the how long it takes to do an Inferno and then applies that to something like running Leviathan and have to be totally perfect all the way throughout.
I think, to be honest, actually, I think it's a bit of a cop-out saying like no overhead Inferno. I think it's obviously that is a given,
Peter Guide,
right,
even
in
that
terms
gives
of
up.
PVM achievements. My personal favorites are always when people use budget gear to do really hard content soon after release, because, you know, working in the community, I see a lot of commentary around, oh, this is far too difficult. They expect you to have the best in slot gear. It's not achievable for anyone. And then someone comes out and just like, I completed the Inferno with a 56k setup. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, it is possible. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, you know, you're all wrong and you should get better at the game. I just, there's a part of me where it's like, I feel satisfied knowing that it is possible. And I'm sure
He's talking about my 56k setup that I did Inferno with.
there are things that tweaks and stuff that could be made to help with the wider player base. But there's something about that when it happens. I'm just like, it feels good.
Yeah, the thing with that as well, I always see is like if someone very good at the game. Now, Mulgoat Kirby is someone who always
56k deaths, maybe. What are we saying?
does like the low budget stuff. If he goes and does some piece of content, let's say, in like a really, really, really low gear setup, the problem is he's very, very good at the game.
Yeah.
You know, so like if he completes it in 50k gear, you can't go to someone who's maybe nowhere near as good and be like, Mulgoat Kirby did it in 50k gear.
Yeah, you should.
Why can't you do it in 10 bill gear? And I'm like, well, because it's Mulgoat Kirby, you know, he's extremely good at the game in every way. He knows how to break down things. Don't know how he grinds his speedruns or anything, but I feel sad because he spent like 20 plus hours or something, might have been more, on a gargoyle speedrun, the Doom and Dusk or whatever, because he just likes to get the world records, and then you updated it. So now he has to I think he went back and just did it straight away or something, but a lot of time. No, I know what you mean with that. With the no overhead Inferno, one thing I always say, because we're in content creation era, if Port Kazar just uploaded that video of the no overhead Inferno, the picture, which he did, if Exact never streamed it, I don't know if we'd even see the methods. You know, you'd have to be there, like, because it's when someone does something, but if they imagine they didn't tell you how they did it. Because I always look back at things and I'm like, if that video, like someone uploaded or Exat just uploaded a 35 combat Inferno kill, I think it's 35, the lowest level. If he never streamed how he did it, everyone's just there like, what?
Yep.
Like, how do you do that? Luckily, we can kind of see how people actually do it and all that stuff. I think though, when it comes down to RuneScape and what makes things hard, obviously it's an RNG game. You don't know what your T-bow's going to hit. It might hit a 90, might hit a 0. I think the game becomes automatically way harder when you put a time limit on something.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an infinite amount of time to complete something in the game, like a fire cape in...
This is the natural evolution of video games, is like, what can you do? Okay, a lot of people started doing it, or whatever, what's hard, a lot of people start doing the hard thing. That's like, okay, but how fast can you do it? That's like the natural evolution.
An hour, 2 hours, easy. Well, that's a time limit. Let's say you have to complete a fire cape, easy. But if someone goes, right, complete a fire cape in 17 minutes, I don't know what the world record is, but 17 minutes, instantly way harder, because now you can't be messing around. You have to just be doing
There's
stuff.
inert pressure applied as just a result of there being that time restriction.
Exactly. That's what I think makes the game hard.
They've I think this was before I joined the old school team, but there was the 2016 competition maybe to do like the fastest fight cave and stuff.
Yes.
And I think that was kind of when, I know people must have been doing some speed running before then, but I think that's when it kind of helped. We started seeing time shared, and like you said, people speculating, how do they do that? How do they do that? And you started seeing more YouTube content and more stream content focusing purely on that. And I think that helped kind of give the speedrun community a big shot in the arm, because it's been massive on other games. It's kind of taken time for old school to go from it too. And obviously we saw Cold One done at Games Done Quick.
Yep.
It'd be great to see.
What about the guy who got GM with 60 attack? Yeah, so if people, that's what they already referenced though. They already referenced, just said this. He said, I like when people start doing it in budget gear. Imagine you take the hardest task in the game, a lot of people start doing it, and then like, okay, what's the least amount of skill level or combat level or gear that I could use to achieve this really hard task? And so you have the people that are docking themselves, basically handicapping themselves. So you're either handicapping yourself or speedrunning. That's like the natural evolution of games, especially MMOs. It's what can we do it? Can we do it without dying? Or can we take what can we take out of the game to be more entertaining? And that's what a lot of people do in content creation. They lock themselves to one area of the map. All they're doing is just removing 90% of the game, and then they're playing the game without 90% of it. And it's the most entertaining thing. And that goes to show you, maybe having the entire game at your disposal is not always the thing that we're most interested in. Because Settled is the biggest content creator on YouTube, and all he does is restrict himself to one thing in the game.
To see more presence like that.
Yeah, again, I think he did it live as well, because you did the RNG aspect of the game. You go to a speedrun and everything just decides to hit low. You just sat there like, what do I do? You know, but luckily, I called on, again, very, very good player in the spot. He knows how to do. Chambers has been in the game forever. Chambers has been ripped apart in so many ways that everyone knows how to fly through things and all that. But again, Chambers could have been one of the first places the time limit was there. You know, you have the board outside. I don't know if that came with challenge mode. But again, Chambers of Zurich speedrunning, it's one of the best in my opinion, because so many rooms to optimize and so many areas that you can save time and all that. But Chambers speedrunning, I think, might be one of the more popular ones. I don't know if Inferno might be more popular, because I know TOA is not that popular. TOB's kind of a niche community. But I think when it comes down to the world record speedruns, it's always Inferno, Chambers, Fight Cave at the moment. I don't know about Colosseum maybe coming into it, but they're the ones that I think. Because I used to do some Chambers speedrunning myself. I loved it. It was great. There was a point where I started and I almost beat the world record, because I entered Ulm at, I think it was the same time the world record did. And then the average Ulm, which is like 10 minutes and 40 seconds back then with like Inquisitor and Lance or something, it was ages ago. If I got that, I think I got the world record by like 11 seconds. And then my D Warhammer hit 5 zeros on like a flame hand. That's how long the flame hand was alive for. And I was just there. Like, I remember, like, I don't get angry when I play the game. I get frustrated and all that. This Fight Cave I'm talking about, sorry, not Fight Cave, Chambers Zurich, there's no video proof. I put the tweet out and I put the splits down. It's like a 21, this is ages ago. The world record was like 31.25 for the CM. I entered Ulm at like 21.34. Average Ulm was like 10.40 or something. I don't know if that math adds up. But I remember shaking with anger when my D Warhammer just hit zeros every single time, because I knew I could have got the world record. And then I didn't even think I got top 10. I think I ended like 16th or something like that.
Right.
Entered Ulm, tied world record split. Ended like 16th because
it is a bit taint. There's a lot of RNG in MMOs, especially RuneScape. It does suck a lot when your whole run depends on how hard your Dragon Warhammer hits. But I mean, I guess it's part of the game.
I just hit so bad on all. And I was there like, yeah, I was very angry. I was very upset about that. But yeah, I think Chambers speedrunning is amazing. Inferno is the best. But
what do you feel about, obviously we have speedrun worlds, which are mainly used for some quests, and we haven't added any for a long time now. Yeah. I'd love to see those worlds used for PVM speedrunning too. Maybe there's some changes you can make. I don't know how you'd feel about it. Or you almost remove RNG from it. Guarantee a spec just to see how the speedrun is. Maybe it's not open all the time. Maybe it's just like a seasonal thing twice a year. All right, proper juice speedrun world, go.
Yeah, I think I yapped about this on stream once, where it's like if you did a speedrun world for PVM, but your weapon always hits the maximum hit, because it would then change things where, let's say a monster.
Now you're taking out the RNG and it's 100% skill, right? Okay, that's an idea here.
Has 255 health and your T-bow hits 85 max or something. You can't quite kill it in 3 shots. Okay, that would kill it exactly in 3 shots, I think. But so let's say 84, so you got one extra thing. It's like, what do you do? But as some people could innovate, throw a knife, blowpipe spec, granite wall spec or something like that. So they could just save these tiny little ticks. I think speedrunning, though, if you did just max it every time, or roughly max it or hit average or something, I think it'd be kind of boring.
Okay.
Because most of it's optimized. Yeah. You know, like if you watch the best runs, they're not going to be losing time. You know, Chambers picking up potions at Vanguards, they're not going to lose any time moving, you know. There's tiny things as well, though, like if you're on Vasa, if Vasa dies, I don't know the speedrunner now, I don't even know if you pick the potions up anymore, but when Vasa dies, Vasa will die before it hits the crystal, probably in a world record room. If it moves towards the actual exit door, you're already like 5 seconds closer. And it's things like that that can just add up.
Gotcha.
That can like help out with the speedruns and all. Speedrun PVM worlds, though, Chambers is, I mean, it would just help people like Purple Sweets maybe or something. But I think most people speedrunning PVM, there was a time when I think some of the Inferno speedrunners had access to a world and they did it there. Like they did actually do it. Inferno one requires a Slayer task though. So they can skip all the terrail skipping and all that stuff. Things like the Chambers, I feel like most people would just do it in the live game. Like if you go read the board, you want the global time in a live game. You wouldn't really care about it in the other one. Yeah. So some things like the Inferno, skip the Slayer task. Yes, they probably would, because there is no board for the Inferno. It's just a community-known record.
Yeah.
Chambers of Xeric, there's a board outside that says global best time. You want that time.
That's what you want.
So a PVM world for something like that wouldn't bother. But an Inferno task, rather than do it,
by far the most entertaining content was the Infernal content. Once you hit the Coliseum, they'll eat it up. Also, I must add, the entertaining part was the Infernal content because you did it without guides and you were failing. Part of the fun was watching you figure it out. Yeah, I think people really enjoy. I think that people enjoy watching you fail. I think they get more enjoyment out of that than watching you succeed. At a certain point, if you failed enough, then they're like, okay, yeah, this guy deserves to succeed. It's kind of a line with that. I don't think you want to watch Guzu fail Mornings End 2 forever, but if he fails at a certain amount of times, you get a certain amount of joy out of that. There's like a tipping point, if you will.
I think they updated the Slayer tasks recently, where if you die, you don't lose the task. Because I know people just skipped all day to rail just to get a task.
Just to be able to get a Zook task.
Exactly that, yeah. But no, I think some of it, they wouldn't actually bother with the any level of like private.
That's fair enough. Yeah, no, I was kind of looking more from the lens of looking at like speedrunning in other games where they're not online, you don't have high scores, but there's still a strong desire to beat other people because you're, sharing on socials or sharing on forums or making videos and stuff too. Yeah, good point though.
In terms of events, I'm going to just completely shift track here. We've obviously, we've had Deadman, we've had leagues, we've got All-Stars, there's Gridmaster, there's the OTK event that we did. Any kind of event that you would love to put on yourself? To
put on myself?
Or with the support, like if you had an idea for an event, anything that's kind of like came to mind you really wish that we would do?
Kind of two. If it was one that I wanted to do and one that I want Jagex to do. So I'll go with the Jagex one first. It's a game mode that came up with. Deadman All Stars is a bit similar, but it's like a Deadman All Stars, but there's no PvP. It's like a combination of, that sounds terrible by the way. So please don't.
Oh no, okay, go on.
No, it's just All Stars, but okay.
Yeah.
It's just a game.
You have like 100, you have accelerated drop rates, accelerated experience. You have 120 hours on the account. So you have a hard cap. But the goal is from level 3 to prepare your account for the best possible 1v1 scenario that you can possibly do. But you've only got 120 hours to do it. So what do you do in that 120 hours? You might need to get brews, you need to get gear and all that. But then obviously remove the aspect of RNG is you have all the items in the game get dropped at specific drop rates. So if you're good at PVM, then if you can go kill, let's say you wanted an Armadillo chest plate and a Missouri body.
So it's like you get it guaranteed after a certain amount. Maybe you still have RNG, but you get it guaranteed at 10 10 TOAs in, you're guaranteed a piece of Masori.
Got to do 20 or let's say 50 Kriara kills to get the chest plate, guaranteed drop, no RNG. And then you got to do 15 TOA 300s to get the body, guaranteed no RNG. Someone who's very, very good at PvP would probably spend 3 times the time completing those PVM things for that upgrade that a good PVMer could do.
Mm-hmm.
So then the PVMer who's good at PVM and people that are efficient at skilling and get the best strategies, they can get the best.
Okay, so he's saying take out all the RNG from loot, and it's more of a speedrunning league, where at the end of the speedrun league, you use the gear that you've acquired in the amount of time to do a PvP tournament, I think is what he's saying.
Best gear in the game as efficiently as possible because they're good at PVM. Then they go to the
Elite
1v1 stage. So now you have a PVMer who might be garbage at PvP, turning up with the best gear in the game against the PvPer who's insanely good at the game, turning up in like barrels, which is still good. But what this would allow you to do is if someone was good at PVM and the PvP, which we're starting to see now some people that are very good at both aspects of the game.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
A game mode like that, we have a temporary amount of time.
This is a good idea. This would kind of show who that dog is for the best all-around RuneScape player, because that's what it's highlighting. It's highlighting somebody who is insanely good at efficient PVM, being consistent for a long period of time, strategizing what gear they're going to go for to use in a PvP battle royale. But still, you might have somebody like Odablock who is just so good at PvP that he can do it in 40 to 50% of the gear that Port Hazard has at the end of this tournament. And this would, and then it also creates a new tournament middle ground to where like maybe there's somebody that's, you know, so good at PVM and PvP that he's able to beat Odablock because he just has gear and Oda can't keep up with it. So it would kind of establish who's the best all around RuneScape player there is, this kind of tournament. And I like this idea.
With no RNG in your preparation to then prepare to fight people who are good at PvP would probably not win them. I think people that are good at everything, PVM, that can go and do that stuff and save time, they can turn up to the finale in such a big gear advantage that if you fight the best player in the game and they just splash every single freeze, you're probably just going to win easily. But you might have the gear, you might have the double Missouri fortified, which they couldn't get because they're just not that good at the content. So their turn up with double Carols is still good, but it is actually inferior. So it's a game mode where you have a specific amount of time to gear your account as best you can. Obviously, I don't know what the meta is. I don't know what you get. I don't know what you can do. If you try and do stuff and you've overestimated, you might end up with half the gear and turn up when it's all rubbish. But when you do that, you've got your account, it's ready to go, and then there's like some 1v1 bracket that I don't know how you organize that. Because if you have 50,000 people playing the game, you need 25,000 fights, then it goes to like whatever the hell it goes. So that's a lot, and that's very hard to do. So that's maybe where it's like an invite-only thing. But if you invite only for like 30 people, Deadman All-Stars would just be better because you have PvP the whole time. This is 120 hours, hypothetical number, where you just gear the account and then you go for the 1v1s. And then the 1v1s again. If you have the best geared account, but you trash
good idea
PvP,
for a tournament though.
But then if you're good at PvP and have garbage gear, vice versa, same thing can happen. But if you're actually good at both, you have a good chance to win. Like someone like that, I think they're like solo mission.
Yeah. I think Jagex definitely, Castro, you're right. Jagex definitely loves hearing people pitch ideas. They absolutely love it. I think Aiza was he's very open to listening to your feedback. I pitched him the idea of an official bronze man with no PvP. He seemed pretty interested in it. I might bring it up to him again. And he loves asking people on the pod, like, what do you think would be a good idea for RuneScape? You know, and they want to actively create content for the players and the content creators to enjoy the game. Their goal is for more people to come and enjoy the game. And that's like the baseline of everything. And you do that through creating hype through events. And they're smart. They understand that. And so it's so cool to be like a fly on the wall when somebody is pitching an idea to Jagex. And just because you don't like someone's idea doesn't mean it's a bad idea, by the way. I think a lot of you guys think this way, where if you're not interested in playing it, then it's a bad idea. That is not true. It's about when you have to take yourself out of it and think like, what would a mass number of people enjoy, and how could this idea accommodate that, right? So you have to think of it from a developer perspective.
I think he's good at everything. You know, if you look at Deadman All-Stars, there are people that break down who are good at PvP and who are good at PvM.
Or in controversy, like in retrospect, whatever I'm trying to say, you also have to think, would this be a good content creator only event? Is it a content creator only event, or is it a community event? And then there's two types. Those are two different types of things.
You know, Lake is incredibly good at PvM, quite good at PvP as well. You know, Porkazard, best PvMer in the game, roughly. Very good at PvP as well. Secretly, people don't know that until he deadman All-Stars.
All-Stars,
you know?
Yeah.
That's why I chose him. Although I chose him because I couldn't give him to Odablock. I couldn't, you know.
You'd have been doomed even more.
It would have been so bad. He would have been running out of max gear in like day one. I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with that. Got to do it. But that's like my idea of a game mode. I feel like it would be kind of boring, maybe for the 120 hours of prep. But if someone's a very good PvMer, it's nice to see who would be further ahead, see what gear they've got, and just be like, you know, people that are good at PvM, they're like, oh, this guy's got this gear, when someone who's good at PvP has way worse gear. And obviously these are in the chats, you know, oh, let's go check this guy out. And then they just turn up with the best gear, and then they're good at PvP as well.
I like it. That'd be fun.
It's like a jack of all trades kind of game mode.
The Deadman during like 2020, we did regional, didn't we?
Yes.
We could, like you mentioned, like how do we manage so many
we could in
thousands of
theory
players?
just have like 20 worlds that all have a 1v1 section on them running
And
simultaneously.
players have to log in during certain times. If they don't, then they can't compete. And if they do,
so I mean, technically,
Slayer task.
speaking as a non-developer, sorry to
Easy
the
for us to
team,
do.
it's easy. Not so easy, but I think in theory it's possible. It'd just be an absolute nightmare because I think like normally in the past Deadmans we've had staff on hand monitoring each of the worlds to make sure everything progresses the way that it does. But maybe we could just do that on scale. If not, you could always, it would be a much lamer version of your idea.
So you know how they did the bingo where you had to hit bingo and then people turned it into a race and then you could see who did it the fastest? It's kind of the same thing as that in a way, but maybe you give all the gear in the game like a certain amount of points and you see who can, if you have 100 hours, every account has 100 hours it can only be logged into. And after that, after the 100 hours, it's gone. And you have people doing a meta where they're trying to get the most amount of points of what pieces of gear they could get the fastest. And at the end, you got a total score for what all the things that you were able to do in 100 hours. Or it could be a lot less than that, right? Because if it's accelerated and you want people to have multiple attempts at this thing where it's almost like a speed running event where you're trying to build up points and see who can get the most amount of points. And there's a leaderboard. That could be a cool idea. Bodhi's idea could kind of be edited, but I like the premise of it.
But you could essentially give a number of points for each unique item that people have obtained. And then it's a leaderboard based on that. And it's like, you know, who got the most points, you're the winner. So you don't have to do a PvP section towards the end. But I like the element of having the battle to prove the prowess and also show the power of the gear.
The theory behind the PvP battle as well is just to differentiate, like, at the end of the day, like, if you were to say, like, who's the best RuneScape player, and you want to go through someone that's good at everything, you know, there's loads of names that get tossed around. I think Porkazard.
Chat, who's the best RuneScape player all around? PvP, PvE, PvM, they would score the highest. I know a lot of you guys are going to say me here. It's fine. But like besides me. Port, new type, J-Rays. Yeah, I wonder if like you would, if you were to ask that question, who would say like skilling is also a part of RuneScape and being able to skill very fast is also a part of this challenge. So that's tough. JCW, Bodhi, Wooks, Pork Hazard, Odablock. Any Iron Man good at skilling? Probably true.
Is the best player of all time because he would beat 99.99% of the game in PvM, any encounter. And then in PvP, he'd also probably beat about 99% of the game. Whereas some people would be the same in PvM, but then in PvP, they get destroyed by half the people that do PK because Porkazard's very good at PvP as well.
Yeah.
But then you have other people, like Odablock, for example. Like Odablock would beat, again, 99.99% people in the game in PvP, but then in PvM, it might be like 85. So in a competition like this, who would have the edge, Porkazard or Odablock? I think Porkazard would have the edge in this situation. But it kind of has someone that has to be good at everything. Because again, if you would beat 99.9% of the game in PvM, but then you just don't know how to PvP.
But it also, so let's say this. Oda has the 100% PvP. He's better than 100% people in the game in PvP, but he's only better than 85% in PvM. And you have Pork Hazard, who's like 90, he's 100% PvM, but maybe he's like 99% PvP, or maybe he's 85% PvP. I don't know how good he is. He's like the opposite of Odablock. But then there's room for somebody who's like 95 that you've never heard of, and maybe they end up winning that challenge. And I think that would be cool to see if there's any people who are just overall just insane at the game that you've never heard of.
You get to the end of the best gear out of everyone, and you just get destroyed by someone that knows what they're doing, and you just sit there and bolt them. So you have to be good at both to actually be somewhere high on the leaderboard. And I don't know how many game modes I've ever had that kind of rewards people for doing. Deadman All-Stars is the best example that can reward people for being good at like different aspects of the game. I think there's a lot of people and a lot of names that would pop up, because I think I'd be decent at game mode, but again, I think I'd lose to other people. I think Lake would be good at it. People like Sick Nerd, decent, a lot of people that excel in both different types of content.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to watch them progress, because you'd also need to be really good at PVM, because then you see the difference in the PVM skill sets between some people. But then obviously when you come to the final stage, again, if you have like 20,000 fights, you can't see them all. Obviously if they stream the POV, you can, but you just have that at the end. And at the end, there'd be one person who realistically would have geared their account completely to the top through perfect PVM, and then also PvP'd so well that they can take down some of the best PKs. And I think it'd be really cool to know. Obviously, if you did a few different versions of this competition over time, everyone's skill sets would change, but you might see the same names near the top. And that kind of, in my opinion, would show you like who are the actual.
Okay, this is what they could do. They could do it. Here's how you could probably do it. Maybe not everybody gets to participate in the tournament. Maybe only a certain amount of people that place the highest on the gear or something like that. You had to hit like a threshold. And so if you didn't hit like a certain threshold with your gear, maybe you couldn't enter the final tournament at the end, and that could maybe reduce the number of duels or whatever you'd have to do at the end for the tournament.
Players of this game who are just good at everything that you don't know about. If you ever say like, who's the best PVM, you can name 10. Who's the best PvPer? You name 10, but none of them are in the same category.
Yeah.
So this game mode, like how it came up with, is like you could maybe break it down and be like, okay, who's actually potentially in these two lists or something like that. And I don't think there's many people that, I don't think there's anyone at all that you put in the top 10 of both, but if you did like the top 100, top 1,000, there'd be some names that
You
start
see
coming
overlap.
up.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I want to know. Plus also, if you're really good at PVM and you want to do it, you have to learn PvP, and that grows PvP.
Nice. Okay.
The other game mode, the one I would want to do myself is when it comes to PvP again, outside of very few creators, like people like West Ham, Oda Block, Reese maybe thrown there, Greg's good as well. All of them are basically inferior to the NH stakers of the game.
Okay.
But no one knows who the NH stakers are because they're underground. They're disgusting. Now, those four names I mentioned, they can probably go toe-to-toe with some, but I'm talking there's levels. There's some pretty crazy levels to that. The NH stakers.
What did he just say? innate stakers? What is he talking about? NH stakers. No honor stakers. What the heck is a no honor staker? It's bannable, so they hide. Private server people. All styles, all overheads. No honor equals tribrid. 3 styles with overheads. All styles, it's what you do in LMS. Okay, just sound, like LMS. Okay, got it.
And I'd love to personally put down a prize pool that's open invite for creators, and you do a separate creator tournament that qualifies certain people to enter it. But then you go to the NH State community and be like, right, who are your best? Or you do one day, like, who are your best? Nominate 16, let's say, and we have 16 creators and we put them in. So people of the game can actually see the people that NH stake all day, every day. There's a lot of tiny things that go into it. It's a lot different to like 303 Rev Cave. I think if you like, or I don't know what world it is, but whatever the Rev Cave PK world is, if you take an NH staker and put them there, they probably get smoked. But then if you take someone from the Rev Cave and put them against an NH staker in an Outlast fight, they probably get smoked again. And it's just different levels of PvP. And I'd love to see a competition that actually has people that they don't know their name. Never heard of them before.
Yeah.
You got like Jimbo Jones 22 fighting like, who the hell's this guy? And then he's just running all over the place and just dumpstering everyone. And you're just there like, okay, this is really
Everyone's
cool.
like, that's Jimbo Jones. I was here. I saw Jimbo Jones.
I saw that. No, I think that's actually really good. And you're right. There are so many people.
The concept of this, guys, in WoW, there's always this question, like, who's the best WoW player of all time? And depending on what version of WoW that you play, if you're like an old school PvPer, you might be like Wreckful, or if you're a classic WoW PvPer, you might say Snuts. If you're a retail Andy, you might say like Gingy or I'm Fired Up. But most people like unanimously would agree that actually there's a guy named Trill has won first place in Arena World Championship, I think a couple times. And he's won world first in Mythic rating. And if you wanted to, I'm sure he could probably push very high level Mythic Plus if he ever wanted to compete in that arena as well. I think that's the only arena he hasn't really competed in and dominated. But he has dominated the hardest PvE and the hardest PvP challenges in the game. And he's done it for several years now. And so they call him Mr. World of Warcraft because I think most people would consider Trill to probably be the best World of Warcraft player of all time. And so it would be kind of cool to have that talk, like who is the best RuneScape player, like all around RuneScape player? Because a lot of people might say Odablock for PvP, but then they might say Port Hazard for PvM. But who's the best RuneScape player? This kind of tournament would allow somebody to maybe arise and be like, yo, I'm the best RuneScape player. I just won this tournament.